In 2025, China's economy continues to face significant headwinds, marked by sluggish growth, persistent deflationary pressures, and a challenging job market. The post-pandemic recovery has been uneven, with sectors like real estate and manufacturing struggling amid global trade tensions and domestic policy adjustments. Official data indicates that the GDP growth rate hovered around 4.7% in the first half of the year, falling short of the government's ambitious targets. This slowdown has ripple effects across society, exacerbating unemployment and prompting unusual social behaviors as individuals grapple with financial insecurity. One of the most visible manifestations of these economic woes is the rise in property-related crimes and thefts, particularly targeting high-value items like gold and jewelry. With soaring gold prices globally, driven by inflation hedges and market volatility, criminals in China have increasingly turned to quick-hit robberies of jewelry stores and workshops. For instance, in September 2025, Hong Kong police arrested 13 individuals linked to a daring raid on a gold processing facility, where thieves made off with approximately 65 kilograms of gold, valued at $59 million. This incident highlights the boldness of such operations, often involving organized groups equipped with weapons and getaway plans. Similar events have occurred on the mainland. In April 2024, a gold store in Tongcheng was hit just days after its opening, with robbers stealing over 500 pieces of jewelry worth more than $460,000 USD. The perpetrators were swiftly apprehended, but the incident underscored the vulnerability of retail outlets in economically stressed regions. Analysts attribute this uptick in crime to widening income inequality and job losses, as laid-off workers from factories and construction sites seek desperate measures to survive. Beyond organized heists, there are reports of opportunistic thefts that reflect deeper societal despair. In urban centers like Shanghai and Guangzhou, surveillance footage has captured individuals smashing display cases in broad daylight, seemingly unconcerned about capture. Social media discussions often speculate that some of these acts are intentional bids for incarceration, where prison provides basic necessities like food and shelter amid rampant homelessness. While official statistics on such motivations are scarce, anecdotal evidence from online forums suggests a growing sentiment of hopelessness among the unemployed. The unemployment crisis is particularly acute among the youth. In August 2025, the youth unemployment rate soared to 18.9%, the highest since the government revised its calculation methodology in 2023. This figure excludes students, focusing on those actively seeking work, and paints a grim picture for new graduates entering the market. With over 11 million college graduates expected in 2025, competition is fierce, and many are forced into low-wage gigs or remain jobless. This has led to a phenomenon where some young people opt out of higher education altogether, viewing it as a poor investment in an uncertain economy. Universities are responding by culling underperforming programs. In 2024 alone, Chinese institutions eliminated 1,428 undergraduate majors, a staggering 25-fold increase from previous years. Fields like fashion design, mechanical engineering, and information technology, once popular, are seeing declining enrollment as prospective students prioritize vocational training with better immediate job prospects. For example, Donghua University in Shanghai reported 43 freshmen forfeiting their admissions in October 2025, citing reasons such as pursuing repeat exams for better schools or opting for employment over academia. This shift reflects broader disillusionment with the promise of higher education. Education researchers note that students are weighing real-world pressures more heavily, with economic weakness and corporate downsizing influencing choices. Prestigious institutions, once oversubscribed, now actively reach out to admitted students who fail to enroll, a reversal from confident years past. High tuition fees compound the issue. making university less accessible for middle-class families squeezed by inflation and stagnant wages. For middle-aged workers, the challenges are even more daunting. Many bear the burden of supporting families, including children's education and elderly parents. The trucking industry, a backbone of China's logistics, exemplifies the toll of overwork. Reports of sudden deaths among drivers highlight the physical strain of long hours and irregular schedules. In one tragic case from 2024, a driver collapsed in his vehicle at a service area, attributed to exhaustion after months of relentless hauling to pay off vehicle loans. Families left behind face not only grief, but also financial ruin, with outstanding debts and lost income. Netizens express sympathy online, noting the frequency of such incidents. Every few months, another story emerges of a driver perishing on the road. The pressure to earn for family milestones, like university tuition, drives many to push beyond limits. Social commentary questions the lack of outlets for those at society's bottom, where job loss leads to dire straits without adequate safety nets. In response to mounting household debt, the People's Bank of China announced in October 2025 plans to study policies supporting personal credit repair. This initiative aims to help individuals who defaulted on small loans due to pandemic impacts by potentially removing negative records from credit reports after repayment. Set for implementation early next year, it targets defaults below certain thresholds, seeking to restore borrowing access and stimulate consumption. However, the proposal has met with skepticism. Online commentators mock it as an attempt to encourage more debt among those already burned, arguing that risk-averse individuals won't borrow again easily. Critics point out that with high unemployment, official urban rate at 5.3% in August 2025, and economic uncertainty, the policy may primarily benefit financial institutions by accelerating recoveries rather than boosting real economy activity. Experts like market analysts suggest the measure is part of a broader strategy to leverage household debt for economic salvage, but doubt its efficacy in driving consumption. Many families, laden with existing obligations from mortgages and loans, are reluctant to add more unless absolutely necessary. The irony, as some note, is a government discussing credit repair while facing its own credibility issues in economic management. The surge in cybercrimes and other illicit activities further illustrates desperation. With nearly 20% unemployment in some demographics, individuals turn to risky ventures like online scams, prostitution rings, or underground gambling. Detention centers report overcrowding, with facilities designed for 10 inmates now housing 30 to 40. Sentencing rose 8.5% in the first half of 2025, totaling almost 800,000 cases, many related to economic crimes. Tragic personal stories abound. A property owner, unable to meet mortgage payments on a home bought for 1.28 million yuan, saw it auctioned for half the price, leading to emotional breakdown and confrontation with authorities. Similarly, service workers like water deliverers and telecom salespeople encounter sealed-off apartments, signs of widespread foreclosures amid the real estate slump. Analysts warn that the severity of China's 2025 economic situation has surpassed expectations, with youth panic and middle-aged exhaustion signaling potential social unrest. Policies to encourage spending have faltered, as lying flat becomes a cultural response to unattainable prosperity. Building more infrastructure, including perhaps detention facilities, is jokingly suggested, but underscores the need for genuine reforms. International observers note that while China's surveillance system is world-class, it hasn't deterred desperation-driven crimes. Videos of police interactions, quickly censored, reveal candid admissions from officers about the appeal of detention life, regular meals, and rest, compared to street hardships. Such leaks, despite platform removals, circulate widely, exposing societal cracks. In another layer of complexity, foreign investment incentives, like the 2025 reinvestment tax credit, aim to bolster the economy, but domestic consumer confidence remains low. Households prioritize debt repayment over new spending, perpetuating a cycle of stagnation. The government's push for credit repair is seen as a band-aid, not addressing root causes like wage growth and job creation. Stories of unemployed individuals clashing with family over leisure activities, like fishing instead of job hunting, resonate online. These vignettes capture the tension between survival and dignity, with spouses demanding financial contributions amid peer comparisons. The economic downturn amplifies such domestic strains, contributing to mental health concerns. As China navigates these challenges, the interplay of crime, unemployment, and policy responses will shape its trajectory. While some see glimmers of recovery in export sectors, the human cost remains high. Encouraging innovation and social support could mitigate despair, but without bold reforms, trends like voluntary incarceration bids may persist as metaphors for systemic failure. Expanding on the crime wave, regions like Shandong and Guangdong have reported multiple gold store hits in 2024 to 2025. In Weifang City, Shandong, 2 separate incidents involved masked robbers stealing millions in yuan worth of goods, with suspects apprehended shortly after. These cases demonstrate efficient police response, but also the frequency of attempts, fueled by economic disparity. In Anhui Province, a heist recovered over 460,000 USD in gold, showcasing the value at stake. Criminals often use tools like hammers and pry bars, smashing and grabbing in minutes. Bystanders, fearful for safety, rarely intervene, as seen in eyewitness accounts where parents shield children from chaos. The psychological profile of these robbers varies. Some are hardened criminals, but others appear novice, perhaps driven by personal crises like online loan debts. Social media jests about insulting the robbery industry by not using weapons reflect public bemusement mixed with concern over societal decay. Delving deeper into unemployment, the exclusion of students from youth metrics masks the full extent. When including all 16 to 24-year-olds, estimates suggest rates approaching 20%. This hidden unemployment fuels underemployment in gig economy roles, where earnings barely cover basics. Government targets for 5.5% urban unemployment and 12 million new jobs seem optimistic amid slowdowns. Labor distress spreads, with rising jobless claims threatening deflation fights. Bloomberg reports highlight deteriorating conditions, reversing prior progress. On the education front, the drop in international student appeal adds pressure. Western universities see softening Chinese demand due to economic concerns, while domestic institutions struggle with relevance. ETH Zurich's restrictions on Chinese admissions exemplify geopolitical tensions impacting academia. Personal anecdotes from forums illustrate the human element. A graduate from a top university unable to find work in their field turns to cautionary tales for high schoolers, advising against majors with poor prospects. Admissions offices now counsel no-shows, revealing enrollment desperation. For workers like truck drivers, the loan-financed purchase of vehicles ties them to grueling schedules, a case where a 45-year-old died in his cab after failing to respond to calls underscores health risks. Autopsies often cite unknown causes, but families attribute it to fatigue. Sympathy floods social media, with comments on the heartbreak of infrequent home visits and unfulfilled family dreams. The narrative questions societal structures. Is death by overwork the only path for the working class? Credit policy discussions evoke cynicism. The 5-year default record retention is seen as punitive, especially post-pandemic. The new relief for small repaid debts aims to cleanse records, but skeptics argue it encourages repayment for banks' benefit, not consumers. China's largest airport descends into crisis as its CEO mysteriously disappears, inflicting severe losses on the aviation industry and deterring foreign tourists, effectively isolating the nation. China's flagship airport is plunging into deep turmoil, with its top executive vanishing without a trace, as the aviation sector grapples with enormous financial damages and international visitors increasingly avoid the destination, turning China into a virtual, isolated enclave. Complaints are flooding Chinese social media platforms regarding the rapidly declining conditions at Shanghai Pudong International Airport, once celebrated as the nation's primary gateway to the global community. Videos on Douyin portray the facility as resembling a ghost town, with its expansive modern terminals appearing eerily vacant and detached, and scattered retail outlets failing to draw any significant crowds. One traveler remarked, "Dragging my suitcase through here feels like navigating an abandoned edifice." Another video highlights the somber atmosphere in Terminals 1 and 2, where departure screens repeatedly display "canceled" notices. Airport personnel have confirmed a sharp decline in international passenger traffic, prompting many airlines to reduce or entirely withdraw routes to Shanghai, redirecting operations to alternatives such as Tokyo, Singapore, or Seoul. Concurrently, the Shanghai Airport Authority, responsible for overseeing both Pudong and Hongqiao airports, is entangled in severe financial distress and leadership instability. On October 24th, the board disclosed that General Manager Zhang Jianglin had tendered his resignation, with subsequent Chinese media reports suggesting he has gone missing and is likely the subject of an official investigation. Previously a highly lucrative operation, the airport achieved a record net profit of 5 billion RMB in 2019, but it has since recorded losses for 3 consecutive years, including a 3 billion RMB deficit in 2022. Post-pandemic recovery efforts have proceeded sluggishly, causing gross profit margins to drop from 50% to between 16% and 22%. China's 3 major state-owned airlines have similarly reported losses for the 5th year in a row. Despite the removal of COVID-19 restrictions in early 2023 and the implementation of expanded visa-free policies, inbound tourism continues to lag. In 2024, international entries and exits totaled 64.9 million, significantly below the 97.7 million figure from 2019. Circulating online videos reveal desolate scenes at both Pudong and Hongqiao, featuring empty concourses, shuttered stores, and idle runways. Company insiders disclose that the airport is confronting an acute cash flow crisis, sustaining operations only through emergency loans from state-owned banks and government subsidies. Internal deliberations on widespread layoffs and salary cuts are underway, with rumors indicating that as many as 8,000 employees could be affected. The situation in Shanghai reflects a broader collapse within China's aviation industry. The operator of Beijing Capital Airports, which manages 34 facilities nationwide, is overwhelmed by debt, following investments exceeding 160 billion RMB, equivalent to about 22 billion USD, in large-scale projects like Beijing Daxing and Tianjin Binhai airports. In 2024, the group's financial expenses amounted to 1.5 billion RMB, equating to daily interest payments of roughly 4 million RMB. Despite a rebound in passenger numbers, substantial depreciation and debt obligations have eroded profitability, placing the company on the verge of insolvency. Analysts attribute this to China's model of high investment with low returns, exacerbated by the absence of clear separation between government and corporate functions, which perpetuates a cycle of debt and inefficiency. Persistent corruption in aviation administration has compounded the issues, leading to investigations and convictions of several senior officials for bribery and abuse of authority. Nevertheless, Beijing persists in allocating funds for new airport developments. According to the 2021 National Comprehensive Transportation Network Plan, China aims to establish around 400 civil airports by 2035, adding more than 150 to the current inventory at an average rate of 10 per year. However, over 60% of existing airports operate below capacity, with an average utilization rate of just 46%, the lowest globally. Many have devolved into so-called ghost airports. For instance, Tianjin Binhai, constructed at a cost of 12 billion RMB, $1.6 billion USD, handles fewer than 50 flights daily, while Chongqing Longjia, expanded for 10 billion RMB, has experienced a 30% drop in flight volume. Some new facilities are even being built in cities with populations under 1 million, drawing sharp criticism and public discontent. Analysts regard the trajectory of China's aviation sector as an indicator of broader economic health, noting that the economy is evidently in distress, whether due to enforced international withdrawal stemming from policies contrary to economic rationality, or recent initiatives toward a planned economy, socialist market principles, and anti-monopoly regulations. These elements have alarmed investors, with experts asserting that China's investment climate is repelling foreign capital and directly impacting airline performance. Numerous tourists complain that China does not accept international credit cards and obtaining cash is challenging. Although WeChat and Alipay can be linked to cards, the process is cumbersome and unfamiliar. Accessing foreign websites requires a VPN, adding to frustrations as China increasingly resembles a sealed-off world under constant surveillance. Specialists observe that under President Xi Jinping, local governments have hastily pursued prestige infrastructure projects without regard for actual demand. From the empty halls of Pudong to the surplus of underutilized sites across the country, China's aviation infrastructure now symbolizes a system plagued by debt, waste, and diminishing efficiency, where grandiose edifices stand as monuments to economic stagnation. Ultimately, China's 2025 challenges demand holistic solutions, stimulating genuine growth, enhancing social welfare, and restoring confidence. Without these, the cycle of crime, despair, and economic stagnation may deepen, affecting global ripples given China's influence.